My name is Xiaoqiao, and I'm from Academy of Visual Art, Hong Kong Baptist University. Then my paper title is Image Decaying, Exploring Materials, Surface, and Time within Print and the Printed Moving Image. To begin this presentation, I would like to quote Volker Jonas-Vesco's work, which is the broad division of art disciplines, since over the 20th centuries finally became a reality. Sculpture, painting, design, and drawing case to denote disciplines of art, but have begun defining methods of action that can be performed in the city space, upon a landscape, on a canvas, or even in the virtual and digital work. With the dissolution of the art disciplines boundaries, the field of contemporary printmaking has been involved into a cross-media creative phenomenon, reflected in the expansion of conceptual understanding and presentation of the print medium. One might argue that the phenomenon of transmedia creation does not only occur in the field of contemporary printmaking, but there should be a common occurrence throughout the field of contemporary art, in which regards is the expansive nature of the medium of printmaking special or different from other developments in the field of art. According to the Paul Cover, a professor at the University of Arts London, states, printmaking is a wonderfully positional to provide a space in which crossover between idea, technology, and process can occur. Similarly, printmaker Li Shuren states that printmaking can cross over multiple artistic language and is a specific artistic medium where tradition and contemporarity meet and are innovative. It is also an innovative and experimental art medium. It is perhaps because of the printmaking's natural association with the technology that the developments of printmaking's inherent technological aspects imply the expansion of its medium presentation. What is the particular to printmaking is the fundamentally its nature of fixing on marks. The printed mark is read as an indicator of temporality and part of the printed moving image pattern in this paper. The printed moving image means moving image made by the printmaking's inherent trace of imprinting. This paper examines how image decay can be used to mediate image deconstruction to create printed moving image materials. Image decay is a form of deconstruction in which the content of an image is reconstructed. This decay creates more image through the interaction of epiphania and trace. Epiphania in this paper refer to the capability, skills, and imaginative power to discover patterns that are not intentionally drawn or otherwise created. The paper first analyzed and compared the materials, surface, and time of print and the printed moving image. Secondly, it defined the significance of image decaying in image deconstruction and how the interaction of epiphania and trace can create more image. Finally, it examined how conceptual and material practice issues are interrelated in printmaking and the editing of the printed moving image. Traditionally, printmaking has always been associated with materials, surface, as imaging prints relied on the techniques of the making of prints on a place, and then transferring the image to the image substrate, usually using paper. In contemporary printmaking, however, the final rendering of the printed image is no longer only conveyed through the paper. In the printing process, the image on the plate needs to be applied by external force to leave a mask on the surface of the subject, such as paper, to create the texture. The surface texture of the printed image is therefore often closely linked to the materiality of the plate. The materials property values according to the printing technique requires resulting in a different final image. When discussing printmaking, it is always easy to discuss it concerning materials and trades while neglecting to discuss the temporal nature of the printmaking. As with the most traditional graphic work, the result of the printmaking in the traditional sense is a static printed image where the viewer sees only the result of the entire printmaking process. The printmaking process is framed behind the final image, making it difficult to visualize its temporal nature. On the contrary, printmaking has a strong sense of time, especially in the entire printmaking process, such as the time it takes to engrave the plate and the time it takes to etch the plate with the chemical. The duration of the process directly affects and is reflected in the final printed image. Thus, the temporality of the printmaking is a static and obscure representation that depends on the choice of plate material and is ultimately reflected in the surface texture of the final printed image. In contrast to printmaking, the moving image itself is a time-based medium representing material, surface, and sense of time through a moving image. The materiality and surface of the moving image depend on the source element of its footage and how it is presented. Therefore, unlike prints, when discussing the moving image, it is logical to discuss their temporality. The temporality of the printed still image and the dynamic and visually perceptible concept of the time of the printed moving image can be viewed in terms of both the physical and object concept of times. The notion of time on a physical level refers mainly to the actual consumable time spent in creation. In this context, the notion of the object time refers to the time the viewer perceives the work itself after it has been completed and time based on the specific duration of the work itself. For example, video works has their specific duration, while this specific duration is the most obvious sense of time. There is at the same time a certain object sense of the time that the viewer feels by looking at the work. However, within the specific duration of the video works, the viewer will at the same time feel a certain object sense of the time by looking at the works. As the Japanese artist Makino Takashi has pointed out about understanding time-based works, cinema has unique quality, particularly in its treatment of time and its relationship with the viewer. Gallery visitors spend their time on painting or sculpture at their discretion. Cinema audience, on the other hand, are constrained by the time of the film itself, while the viewer experiences the film visual and sound presentation. They are free to immerse themselves in their imagination. Moving images' sense of time is a non-linear state of the presentation. The duration of the moving image work itself fixed or specific time frames within which the sense of time is freely accessible, switchable, and editable. The use of the print as the mean of the image decaying is procedural and temporal, and also rely on the consideration of material practice. As the print medium is inherently depend on the technical and material aids, unlike the moving image in general, the printed moving image is both a printmaking extension and time-based medium, which lead to the discussion of the characteristic of the printmaking and the moving image. The term image decay in this paper refers to the destroying and reconfiguring an image during the printing process to stimulate the creative imaging process to pursue material for the moving image. The Argentine poet and art critic Brian Greene stated the innate human impulse to destroy. He also gives example of children destroying objects to affirm themselves or know them respectively. The man also destroy for the sake of knowledge, and then Thomasy destroy the human body to understand the structure. Scientific destroy the matter to understand how it is created. We do the same in artistic creation, sometimes destroying something in order to make it something new, because nothing can construct without a previous state of destruction. Fisher argued a similar point that destruction is traditionally defined as the transformation of the ordered object into relatively disordered one, or the destruction of something to make it into what was once of new quality. Although it is impossible to find a literal sense in which decay seems to be learning toward or pejorative meanings. For example, according to Cambridge dictionaries, decay as a word is to gradually demand. However, there is perhaps a creative side to image decaying when understood as a method of working with source material to seek change in the state of the image trace. Through this creative drive, image decaying laid the foundation for the future creation of the raw material for the moving image. To some extent, Hito's term poor image can help understand image decaying. In her essay entitled "In Defending of the Poor Image," Steller defined a poor image as a poor in resolution, lacks quality, and is accessible, has been redownloaded and re-edited many times. The ease of access to the internet has made it easier to distribute and edit image. The process of decaying a moving image is also the process of the image decaying, which results from repeated uploading, downloading, editing, re-uploading, re-downloading, re-editing the same image. I want to emphasize here that while processivity may change or destroy the visual information of an image in a more expressive way, it may also produce and enrich new image content through the continued procedural decay. As Christina points out, poor image may lose quality as an image, but they gain speed and meaning because of the number of the people who are acting upon it. That is to say, each stage of the decay processing of an image contains some specific contextual contents, such as the personal experience, shared history, emotion, etc., etc. This is because this contextual phenomenon represents specific content that is acting upon the image. The image that is acted upon carries this content to the next stage and then influence the content producer to create the different contents. In the process of the image decaying, more images are created through the interaction of the epiphania and trace. Storer refer to the Wikipedia to define the epiphanias as the perception of the pattern in random data. She gives the most common example of the epiphania as the people seen face in the clouds or on the moon. As Benjamin Breton argued, epiphania means drawing connection and conclusion from stars with the no direction connection other than their resolution perceptual similarities. This is mean that epiphania is in fact an associative operation to image morphology. In this paper, the reproduction process of the image decaying drove on epiphania to accessible trace to respond in moving image editing. In image reproduction, image decaying as a means of destroying the visual information of an image to enrich the content and meaning of the image, provide meaningful materials for the editing of the printed moving image. The relationship between print image and moving image need to be further discussed to understand better how editing and printed moving image is related to the printing process. As an artistic practice, image decaying probes into our interrelatedness of the conceptual and material aspect in the making of prints and printed moving image editing. An example of my stated of trace is to use to help us to understand. The first, I print and scan an object image to decay. And after several interactions of the printing and scanning process, the result is used as the moving image footage. Finally, the image is re-edited by using video editing software to turn it into the moving image. Examining new results through the editing process to the moving image, these experimental aims were made to explore the potential of the moving image editing process as the condition for expanding the field of contemporary printmaking, translating the static printed image into the time-based image. In this case, print is a fixed trace of the printed moving image, both a trace and a still image containing all the prostheticity. A still image with the material property is used as the sub-image of the moving image. The moving image being prints is a whole in which the inference from the largest to the smallest is that the moving image consists of several still images, which are printed images selected by several processes. In other words, the printed image as a raw image is the part of the printed moving image as a whole, and the part influenced will influence the whole decision. The occurrence of glitch as a creativity force in the process of unlimited creativity in the collection of material for moving image. The creative association of epiphania influence the choice of the image to be printed and determine the editorial structure of the printed moving image. So now I want to conclude in here. Image decaying is an artistic act of the deconstruction as a means of the reconstructing the content of the image. In the course of this act, the creative perspective of observation and imaginary trace is simultaneously given. Thus, epiphania is a key to unlock the journey of the trace imagination. As an expanded field of the printmaking, the printed moving image is characterized by the property of the material on which it is printed. Thus, understanding moving image in terms of the print provide an analytical framework for understanding the relationship between printed image, and the printed moving image. The printed moving image is the print and the image as a whole. When the print is translated into the printed moving image, the material property and the sense of the time change. Most notably in the sense of the time. The sense of the time hidden behind the printed can be visualized in a moving image and provide a relatively free imaginative editorial space. And this is my reference. And thank you so much.